Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Langer. I'm the digital content manager at channel3000.com for News 3 Now here in Madison. We are continuing to follow the breaking news from this morning. We've been covering it all day since the news first broke that the suspect from the July 4th parade mass shooting in Highland Park not only drove through the Madison area, as we learned yesterday, but this morning we learned he thought about carrying out a second shooting here in the Madison area. So we've been working on following up on that all morning, and this is kind of where we are right now. I wanted to provide a quick update on that, on what we're working on, what we know so far, what we have confirmed, and what we're still trying to learn. So basically the news this morning that he thought about a second attack in Madison came from the suspect's interview with police at the Highland Park Police Department after he was arrested. He shared that information about his thought process and what he did in the moments after the attack with police as he was being interviewed, even after he was read his Miranda rights. And those comments were relayed to the rest of us this morning during a press conference in Highland Park after his court hearing, in which he was held without bond and charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder. That in Illinois carries a potential sentence of life in prison without parole. But basically, turning to what we learned about the Madison portion of his day, or what he planned or thought about doing. So Robert Cremo III says he drove up to the Madison area after carrying out the shooting near Chicago, and actually, as he passed a celebration in the Madison area, thought about carrying out a second attack. So the rifle he used in the Chicago shooting he left behind at the scene, but he actually had a second rifle in his car, and police say he had about 60 rounds of ammunition there as well. So he did have the tools to carry out another mass shooting in the Madison area if he thought he wanted to go through with it. Ultimately, it looks like he decided against it. So the direct quote I want to read here from the Lake County Sheriff's Office Deputy Chief Christopher Covelli, who's kind of been the spokesperson on this investigation. He said this morning, quote, "Investigators did develop some information that it appears when he drove to Madison, he was driving around. However, and he did see a celebration that was occurring in Madison, and he seriously contemplated using the firearm he had in his vehicle to commit another shooting in Madison," end quote. So that's the news that we learned this morning. Police say, though, he ultimately decided against it because he had not planned or researched this location or planned for a second shooting at the time. It seems like this was just a thought that may have occurred to him as he was driving past the area and saw more people gathered. But unlike the shooting in Highland Park, which authorities say he planned for weeks, if not months, he did not plan for this location in the Madison area. And it's important to note, too, we don't know at this point which celebration he would have been driving past. We've kind of been looking at all of the 4th of July events in the Madison area, trying to figure out where he may have passed. But so far we do not know which event he thought about attacking, and authorities did not share that information with the media this morning either. Obviously, this is still an ongoing investigation, and they're trying to parse as much information as they can and get reliable information, not rumors, out to people, and we also want to do the same thing here. But going back to what they were able to confirm and did release this morning, they said he ended up throwing away his cell phone in Middleton, actually, on the 6500 block of University Avenue. So we do know for sure, at least, he traveled through that area and threw his phone away in an effort to prevent police from tracking him that way. The FBI did end up confiscating that phone. The phone is now part of that investigation, but he did leave his cell phone in the Madison area in Middleton on University Avenue. Investigators say they still don't have a firm idea of what his motive was, even for the Highland Park shooting, let alone the possible attack in Madison. But he did have, as we mentioned, that high-powered rifle and about 60 additional rounds of ammunition in his car at the time that he drove through this area. We've also reached out in the course of this, since we found this out, to several local authorities, police departments, to see what they could tell us about it. But when we asked Madison's police chief yesterday about Cremo being in the Madison area, he declined to comment at that time and referred us to the FBI. We called the FBI, and they sent us in turn to that task force that's investigating the Highland Park shooting as well. And they are the ones that are controlling the flow of information here. And outside of the information that they provided at the press conference this morning, they did not share anything else. We did reach out to the Middleton Police Department because that is where the phone was found. They issued a statement in response saying they've been working with investigators, but they are not actively involved in the investigation at this time. They're just cooperating, answering questions, that kind of thing. And again, the FBI is handling the phone that was found in Middleton as well. We also contacted the Dane County Sheriff's Office. They declined comment and referred us to the FBI and the task force in Chicago as well. But going back to what that task force said about his trip to Madison or the Middleton area, they did say this morning that they don't believe that the suspect originally planned to drive through this area. It just sort of happened as he was driving away from the shooting scene in Highland Park. They also said they couldn't provide any other information right now about his thoughts about the possible second attack in Madison right now. They're still, continuing to go through the interview process with him and go through all the evidence and kind of track his movements throughout the day. We should mention, though, that our reporters are continuing to dig into all of this. They've contacted all these police departments. Our digital team also working on this as well. One of our reporters actually did speak to the business owner where the cell phone was found. You'll be able to hear his comments a little bit later tonight on News 3 Now at 4, 5, and 6. We'll also have those comments up at channel3000.com later today, so you'll want to be looking out for that. But obviously, this is a story that's continuing to develop throughout the day. Lots of developments coming in very quickly. We are trying to get through as much of it as we can and verify it all before we put it out there, because we want to make sure that we have reliable information for all of you here as well. But you can go to channel3000.com for more information throughout the day. As we continue to track this story, as we talk to more people around the area about what they may have seen or heard that day as well. So you'll want to keep checking back for our website there. But again, if you're just joining us now to recap from the start, we're continuing to follow that breaking news that the suspect in the Highland Park mass shooting during a 4th of July parade there actually did drive through the Madison area, as we learned yesterday, but this morning we learned he thought about possibly carrying out a second attack in the Madison area. That came through an admission he made to police when he was being interviewed before he was charged, and police say he did have another rifle in his car, 60 rounds of ammunition there in his car with him as well, as he drove past a celebration in the Madison area, but ultimately decided not to go through with a second attack because he hadn't hadn't planned it out as meticulously as he did the Highland Park shooting. So he decided against it, ended up throwing his phone out on University Avenue in Middleton before heading back to the Chicago area, where he was later arrested later that day. So we are continuing to kind of work through that timeline, contact everybody we can to try to get more information on this. Several law enforcement departments in the area, Middleton Police, Madison Police, Dane County Sheriff's Office, have all referred us to the FBI, and the FBI has referred us to that task force in the Chicago area who is investigating this shooting. But this information is coming from that task force this morning, where they said the suspect did contemplate at one time possibly carrying out another attack in the Madison area. As we said, we don't know for sure which event that would have possibly been. The investigators speaking this morning did not have those details either, but obviously on the 4th of July, lots of community events going on, and very fortunate that he decided against carrying out another attack and ended up heading back to the Chicago area. But as I mentioned, all these updates in this article that you see there next to me over at channel3000.com. You'll find it at the top of our homepage. We also have continuing coverage of other angles of this story there as well. And we have much more to report later on today as our reporting team continues to dig through all of these details. So be sure to watch us at 4, 5, and 6 on News 3 Now, also at channel3000.com and Channel 3000 Plus. So stay tuned, channel3000.com for updates throughout the day. Also, if you download our news app, we will send out those push alerts as we get that information too. So you know exactly when those developments happen. You will have it almost immediately. So you can find a download link for that app as well over at channel3000.com. In the meantime, we're going to wrap up here, continue following the story.